Welcome to Lead with Linnea, where we talk about real leadership for real people in the real world. I'm Linnea Rader, and I've spent 2 decades in public service leadership. From accounting to my current role as the Director of Finance and Human Resources, I've seen pretty much everything. The spectacular successes, the painful failures, and everything in between that makes leadership both challenging and incredibly rewarding. Here's the thing. Leadership is not reserved for people with fancy titles or corner offices. Every single one of us can be a leader in our personal and professional lives. Whether you're managing a team of 50 or just trying to figure out how to navigate office politics, whether you're a frontline worker or sitting around a boardroom table, leadership skills matter. My approach? I skip the fluff and get straight to what really works. You won't find theoretical frameworks or feel-good platitudes here. Instead, you'll get practical, tested strategies from someone who's been in the trenches, made the mistakes, and learned the hard lessons so that you don't have to. Through Lead with Linnea, I provide leadership development training and coaching because I'm passionate about helping people discover their authentic leadership potential. And honestly, some days you need to laugh to keep from crying, and some days you just need someone to tell you the truth about what leadership really looks like. So whether you're listening while you commute, taking a walk, or just need someone to remind you that you've got this, I'm here for you. So let's dive in and talk about what it really takes to lead with authenticity, impact, and maybe a little bit of sanity. Ready? Let's go. The comparison trap. Why looking at other leaders' success is killing yours. So I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been the type to sit around feeling inadequate about other people's success. It's just not how I'm wired. But you know what I have done? I have looked at other leaders and thought, how are they pulling that off? What am I missing? The difference is subtle, but it is important. I wasn't comparing myself to feel bad. I was trying to figure out their secret sauce so I could replicate it. Which sounds productive, right? Yeah, well, except here's the problem. I was trying to reverse engineer their success based on about 10% of the actual information. And that's a trap most of us fall into, whether we're prone to self-doubt or just trying to learn from others. We're making judgments and decisions based on what we see, which is almost nothing compared to what actually is happening behind the scenes. So the Instagram effect, but let's make it leadership. We all know social media isn't real life. Nobody posts pictures of their messy kitchen or their kid's meltdown in the grocery store or the fight they had with their spouse about whose turn it is to take out the trash. They post the vacation photos, the perfectly plated dinners, and smiling family pictures. But somehow, we forget that same principle applies at work. You see other leaders in meetings where they're prepared and confident. You see them giving presentations that land perfectly. You see them getting recognition for their achievements. You see them handling crisis with apparent ease. What you don't see is them at 2 a.m. worrying about a decision they made. You don't see them crying in their car after a particularly brutal day. You don't see the 3 projects that failed before the 1 successful project you're admiring. You don't see the personal sacrifices, the therapy sessions, the moments of doubt, or the support systems holding them up. You're comparing your messy internal reality with their polished external performance. And that's a rigged game you are never going to win. So the things you don't know. Let me tell you some stories about leaders I used to compare myself to. That leader who seemed to have it all going together, she's dealing with a serious health diagnosis she kept private. The one who always appeared calm, he spent years in therapy learning anxiety management techniques. The one with the perfect work-life balance, her partner had to quit his job to handle everything at home. The one who made leadership look effortless, she'd failed spectacularly in her previous role and spent years rebuilding her skills and her confidence. You have no idea what's going on behind that curtain. None. You don't know what they're sacrificing. You don't know what support they have. You don't know what struggles they're hiding. You don't know what advantages they have that you don't. You don't know what internal battles they're fighting. Comparing yourself to someone based on incomplete information is like trying to bake a cake using only 3 ingredients from a recipe that calls for 12. It's not going to work the way you think. So the math, it just doesn't math. Here's another problem with comparison. You're literally comparing different people with different situations, different strengths, different resources, and different challenges. That leader who seems more successful than you, maybe they have a larger budget. Maybe they inherited a high-performing team instead of building one from scratch. Maybe they're in a role that's easier to measure success in. And maybe they've been doing this 10 years longer than you have. Or maybe, and here's a big one, maybe they're not actually more successful. Maybe their team is miserable, but they're good at faking it in public. Maybe the results aren't as impressive as they seem. They just talk a good game. And maybe they're one crisis away from everything falling apart. You're taking all the complicated, nuanced variables that make up leadership success and reducing them to a simple, they're doing better than me. That's not an analysis, that's self-torture. So you are your own person. Here's what it changed everything for me. Realizing that I can only compare myself to myself. Not to Sarah or Mike or Jennifer, not to the leaders I admired or envied or felt threatened by, but to me. To who I was last month, last year, or when I started this role. Am I a better leader today than I was 6 months ago? Have I developed new skills? Have I handled situations better? Have I grown in my understanding of leadership? Have I improved in specific areas I identified as weaknesses? Those are the only comparisons that matter, because those are the only comparisons based on complete information and fair context. The growth mindset shift. When you stop comparing yourself to others and start comparing yourself to your past self, something magical happens. You can actually see your progress. You remember that meeting 3 months ago when you completely froze up? Look at you now. You're handling similar situations with more confidence. Remember when you had no idea how to give difficult feedback? You're getting better at it. Remember when every decision felt like you were guessing? You're developing better judgment. This isn't about lowering standards or being satisfied with mediocrity. It's about recognizing that growth happens incrementally. And the only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. What you can learn from others. Now, before you think I'm saying you should never look at any other leaders, let me clarify. There is a huge difference between learning from others and comparing yourself to them. Learning from others looks like, I noticed how Jennifer handled that conflict. What specific techniques did she use that I could apply to my style? Comparing yourself to others looks like, Jennifer is so much better at conflict resolution than I am. I'll never be as good as her. Do you see the difference? One is about growth and development. The other is about inadequacy and self-judgment. You can admire other leaders. You can study their techniques. You can ask for advice. You can model behaviors that work. But the moment you start measuring your worth against theirs, you've crossed from learning into the comparison trap. So the energy drain. Here's the practical problem with comparison. It's exhausting and it's completely unproductive. All that time you spend looking at other leaders and feeling inadequate, that's time you could spend actually developing your skills. All that energy you waste on envy and self-doubt, that's energy you need for the actual work of leadership. Comparison is like running on a treadmill. You're expending a ton of effort, but you're not actually going anywhere. Worse, you're too exhausted to do the things that would actually move you forward. So the reality check you need. Let me be really honest with you. There will always be leaders who appear more successful than you. Always. No matter how good you get, no matter what you accomplish, you'll be able to find someone who seems to be doing better. If you base your self-worth on being better than others, you're signing up for a lifetime of insecurity because there's always someone else, always another comparison that makes you feel inadequate. But here's a beautiful thing. You don't have to be the best leader in your organization, your industry, or the world. You just have to be the best leader you're capable of being right now. And then work on being slightly better tomorrow. That's it. That's the whole game. Your new comparison strategy. So, what do you do instead of comparing yourself to others? Here's what's worked for me. Track your own progress. Keep notes about what you're learning, how you're handling situations differently, what skills you're developing. Look back from time to time so you can see how you've changed and grown. Celebrate your wins. When you handle something well, acknowledge it. Don't brush it off because someone else might have done it better, and especially not because nobody else noticed. You did it well. You noticed. And that's what matters. Learn strategically. By all means, study other leaders, but watch their techniques, their skills, their growth, not to measure your own worth against theirs. Remember context. When you find yourself starting to compare, remind yourself that you're working with incomplete information and different circumstances. And focus on service. Instead of, am I as good as them? Ask, am I serving my team and my organization effectively? The first question is about ego. The second is about impact. The permission you're looking for. If you're waiting for permission to stop comparing yourself to others, here it is. You're allowed to be your own kind of leader. You're allowed to develop your own pace. You're allowed to have different strengths and struggles than other leaders. You're allowed to define success in terms that matter to you and your situation. You don't have to be Sarah or Mike or Jennifer. You just have to be the best version of you. The challenge. Here's your challenge for the week. Notice when you start comparing yourself to other leaders. When you catch yourself doing it, stop and ask these 3 questions. 1. What incomplete information am I basing this comparison on? 2. What am I trying to learn from this observation? And 3. How have I grown in this area compared to my past self? Those 3 questions will help you shift from destructive comparison to productive learning and self-assessment. So the bottom line, the comparison trap is seductive because it feels productive. It feels like you're pushing yourself to improve by measuring yourself against others, but it's not. It's just making you feel inadequate while draining the energy you need to actually grow. The only leader you need to be better at is the one you were yesterday. That's the comparison that actually matters. That's the race worth running. Everyone else, they're running their own race with their own obstacles and their own finish line. Stop watching them for long enough to focus on your own path. You got work to do, and it has nothing to do with keeping up with everyone else. So, how do you catch yourself falling into this comparison trap? What strategies help you refocus on your own growth? Share those experiences in the comments. Thank you for joining me today on Lead with Linnea. I hope something we talked about resonates with you and gives you a tool you can actually use in your leadership journey. Remember, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional, authentic, and willing to keep learning and growing. You're going to face situations you never saw coming, make decisions that feel impossible, and sometimes wonder if you're cut out for this whole leadership thing. It's normal, it's human, and that's exactly why we need leaders like you who are willing to do the hard work. If today's episode sparked some ideas about training or coaching for you or your team, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at leadwithlinnea@leadwithlinnea.com or give me a call at 269-621-5282. Whether you're looking for one-on-one coaching, team training, or need someone to speak at your next event, let's talk about how we can help you and your people become the leaders your organization needs. You can find more resources, read my blog post, and learn more all about my services at leadwithlinnea.com. As always, carry social kindness with you everywhere you go. This world needs you and your positive mindset. Until next time, keep leading and keep growing.